going to do this video. This is going to be about the antiversal latch, and the way it goes in is obviously like this. It's obviously like that, so you can catch the edges of the teeth. This is the first video I've done where I'm shooting over the shoulder, so it's kind of a little difficult for me to do this normally because I do not film this way. And you can see I push down everything just so that when I lift this up, none of the gears are stuck to the shell. Go ahead and pop this out. And there's our antiversal latch right there. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom up on this. Now if you're wondering why does the gear have little swirl marks on it, the reason for that is because this gear did not fit in the shell. It's an aim top gearbox. Certain parts don't fit, they grind and so forth, but we're not going to go over that. We're just going to go over the antiversal latch here. I'm going to compare with this one. Whenever you get a new part or you're trying to replace something, you should always confirm that it's going to fit in the new, that'll be compatible to be installed. So we're going to go ahead and just pull off this gear. Interesting way to do that, right? And I can't really see anything from here. Is that grease? Yes, it is. I'm just going to wipe it down into the bushing. That will get to the axle. So here's the antiversal latch. It's got the spring on there. Pretty simple. Put it in here. You just kind of pull it down and see that it's snappy, right? You can see where the spring goes. Make sure that the spring isn't chipped and that you've got plenty of push. Now, this bevel gear, this one has a lot of teeth you can see that go around here in a spiral. So that's what, 8 teeth? Wow, that was quick without counting. You put this in here, and you can just imagine that if I had this in, that would click in place. But if I let go, anywhere within here and higher is not going to click in place. I'm not going to be able to set this down in there. And it looks like there are shims on the bottom of this bevel gear, so I don't want to lose them. I'm going to be a little careful. So, a few things. Let's go with this shell. Now before you comment about the grinding on here, again, it's the gear doesn't fit properly. So right here is a hole for the antiversal latch. So if you put your new antiversal latch in, you need to make sure that it's not too tight. You can see there is no tightness whatsoever. Okay, check both sides. So I'm going to pull this off. Take this out and put this in, and you would check, okay, there's no problem here. You could put the spring on there on that one, and again you want to make sure that it springs further than the zone that it would click to. So if I had this in here, you can imagine that the teeth are about this right here in this area. So for this to click, it has to be about right there. Does that make sense? Yes. And as the gear moves, it does this action in this zone. Before I forget to mention, there's one thing that's kind of important. This is a general rule. Your antiversal latch needs to latch about 50% of the, you can see right here, it's about 50% of this. So if it's like this, you're okay. It needs at least 50%. If not, you could try shimming it up, cut more material from the other side of the shell, so you could shim this up. Okay. You don't really need to shim it down unless it's, I guess, if it was like this, then you're in trouble. But that's not going to really happen. Anyways, it needs to be at least 50%. The reason is because if you've got something like this, more likely you're going to have chipping, and that's something that you want to avoid. That general rule goes with any of the gears. You need at least 50% mesh between each other, at least. And that's the smallest number I would suggest. Any smaller than that is just on the danger zone of knocking off some teeth or chipping. Now you can see where the antiversal latch is, and like I said, it's going to latch down within this area. We already know that it springs upwards. So what you're going to do is, when you got the new antiversal latch in there, you're going to want to close the shell. Okay, and you get this closed. I really can't see what I'm doing here, so my guess is the gear is not in the proper spot. The antiversal latch is not in its proper spot either. There you go. Alright, so you would tighten this down, and by hand you would spin the gear. So let's back out for a second. And you can hear it clicking. So I would tighten this down and do that. Now, however, once you put in a new antiversal latch, there's a couple things to know. The specification on this could be too thick. So what happens is it's crushed in here when you tighten this gearbox down. So let's go ahead and move this real quick. Make sure there's no shims on the shell. And pull this out just to demonstrate. Did I get the shim on that? Yeah. And these are about exactly the same. So it lucked out there, but could be off just a little bit. Now, how do you check to see that there is enough movement within the shell? You put your antiversal latch in here with the spring. Make sure you have it with the spring, because the spring adds height. And you close this and you tighten it down. And what you're going to want to do once you tighten this down with the screw is get right underneath the antiversal latch, pick it up. Now, if you can see it come up, you more than likely have enough. If you want to be 100% positive, which I suggest, this is just like the best shimming tip that I gave on a video just a little bit ago. You're going to take your screwed gearbox shell right here with just the antiversal latch, and you're going to look down like this, right in here, and with your eyes you'll be able to see a little space at the top of the bevel gear. I don't know how well we can see this on camera here, but I don't even know if we see the antiversal latch. Yeah, that is the antiversal latch right there. Okay. You should see a tiny little space for the axle. That's if it's tightened down. If it is, then there's no reason why it wouldn't lock. These are the things you would check. Now let's say it's too much pressure. I've done this before. You get your Dremel and you just slightly cut off a layer right here of this side. And what that does is that allows the free movement, and this is not being pressed down anymore like this, and it will work. And that's how you would get your antiversal latch installed in and make sure everything's good to go. No more backspin anymore. No more worries.